Here we are. Right, hello everyone. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes for everyone to join us before we start. So just to inform you that I am recording this session, you are welcome to turn off your cameras, and I would ask you to kindly stay muted until you want to ask a question. You can either type it in the chat box, put your hand up to speak, and we will make sure that your questions are answered. This is just a couple more minutes and then we will start.
Hello, everybody.
Right, hello.
Hello.
Right, okay. Right, Miss Becky and Miss Dennis, I will let you take control of the door so that we can start. Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us again on one of the many in the series of our weekly talks on studying in the UK. So some of you are regulars by now and know that every week we touch on a different subject in studying abroad. Many of the parents in Turkey are looking for more younger and younger placements in schools. So the topics of our discussions are now covering those kinds of needs. And tonight is one of those. We're going to be talking about high school placements, high school applications, the high school education system in the UK. And we have somebody who is highly qualified to do that with me, Mr. Mark Love from Oxford. Thank you for joining me, Mark.
My pleasure, Folia. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I'd like you to just briefly introduce yourself and tell us what you do and who you are, please, so all our audience gets to know you better.
Thank you, Folia. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mark Love. I've been a teacher. I've worked in the Base 16, the sixth form sector, for probably 33 years now. I teach A-level economics, I teach A-level business, a little bit of politics, a little bit of history. I've been a senior tutor, I've been a governor, a vice principal, a principal. I've worked in day schools, I've worked in boarding schools, I've worked in the state sector, and I've worked in the independent sector. A big part of my entire career has been about advising students on choosing schools, choosing A-level subjects, and choosing universities. So hopefully what we talk about this evening will be of interest to you, drawing upon those 33 years of my experience.
That's wonderful. I'm very lucky to have you here with us today, and I'm sure all our parents feel the same. I think you forgot to mention that you're also a parent among all your many qualifications.
I am indeed. The parent of two absolutely lovely daughters. They're not here now, so I can say that fully. I don't want them to hear that. One has very recently graduated from Bristol with a first in politics, and the second is also at Bristol. And if everybody doesn't mind, I'm going to tie them into what we're going to talk about. One went to a college for her A-levels. The one went to a very traditional independent school for her A-levels. So it's not just, as you say, my experience in education, it's also as a parent. So thank you for flagging that, and very, very relevant indeed.
Yes, it'll be crucial information, I think, because a lot of our parents are at that stage where they're between choices, where the importance of a good education in the UK compared to the the widely known state education is also on the table for many of our clients. So it's important that we talk to somebody like you, and thank you again. So before we start, there are some questions that I've received from our parents and some questions that I'm always asked. And this time, since you're the expert, you'll be answering those questions for us. Just want to let you know that you're going to be on the hot seat. Here we go. Now, to talk about a successful high school education in the UK, we come from a very rigorous, strict, and perhaps a very subjective education system. I can say that because I've seen some of it, and I know many of our students have come from that and making a transition now. So what most parents want to know from us is how can we make this transition as smooth, as problem-free, as happy and as successful as possible. So what should be the criteria here for the parents and the students to apply?
Okay. I think the first question that we all ask ourselves as parents when choosing a school is we have to ask ourselves, what are our priorities as parents? What do we want to achieve out of the education that we choose for our children? Then, and personally, I think we have to give it equal weight. What do our children, what are their priorities in terms of what to get out of their education? Now, quite often, and parents, you will all know this, we will see things in a very different way than our children. I personally think when they reach that age of 16, 17, I think they should be fully engaged in that choice. I think it enables motivation. It is treating them like the young adults they are. And whilst clearly it doesn't guarantee success, if you've involved your child in that discussion, in that decision, then they are invested is not the right kind of phrase I want to use, but let's use it. They're invested in that choice. So number one, discuss those priorities, agree those priorities. I think that's the first step. I think you then have to look at the detail. So for example, is your child someone who wants a school in an urban environment? Are they someone who wants a school in a rural environment? Now, that might sound quite basic, but there's a lot of research that shows that the physical environment, the built environment the young person is in, can have quite a powerful influence on their success within education. The next thing you need to look at is the size of the school. Some children like being in a big school. That's the kind of culture that they want and that they thrive in. Others need to be in a small school. So it's supporting your child in looking at those various options, the physical environment and the size of the environment itself. Now, I know we're going to look a little bit later on at how to choosing a school, so let's go into the detail on that a little bit later. I think one of the key differences that many students face, and Fulia touched on it just now, it's that what as teachers, and many of you might be teachers, it's moving from a didactic teaching methodology where responsibility, it's the student's responsibility to learn. My job is just to lecture at you. That is not the way to achieve success for a young person in education. And the UK system is not a didactic approach, particularly post-16 when you're looking at A-levels. It's an approach that requires engagement in discussion, engagement in analysis, whatever the subject may be. And I think one of the ways that parents can really help support is encouraging their children to engage in that kind of debate and discussion at home, whether it's about mathematics, geography, physics, chemistry, biology, art, it doesn't matter. It's changing that mindset of, I will sit in my seat, my teacher knows everything, I will write it down. At A-level, at IB, that's not enough. It's not enough. They need to have skills of analysis and evaluation and judgment. That comes about through engaging in classroom. So I think that's a key difference that parents can help address. With the language barrier, I think with my experience of Turkish students, I've got 5 at my school at the moment, for example, their English is good. What I tend to say when I travel to other schools in other countries, I say there are 3 things that are most important: English, English, and English. Now, that still holds true for all students, including students in Turkey, but there's a slight variation on that in my experience for students from Turkey. Their English is good. Their general English is good. It's about academic English. So it's using the skills of academic analysis and academic exposition. That is where parents can really help. Now, clearly, if there's an English school that can support with academic English, that's fantastic. But as we all know, and particularly post-pandemic, there are a host of wonderful online resources that you can guide your children to help them develop that particular skill, which is so important. I think another element with differences, and I'm going to come back to this when we talk about schools later on as well. As you all know, the UK is a very multicultural country, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. For some students coming into a school in the UK where it's not a monocultural institution, that can be quite a challenge. So I think it's preparing students for that change and presenting it, as I do to my students at the start of every academic year, as the wonderful opportunity it is. Guys, we all know that the modern world is, for our children, is about them having the capability to deal with anyone from any culture, from any country, and to deal with them effectively and appropriately. That's how they're going to develop their careers in business, in medicine, in engineering, in art, in architecture. So I think guiding your children to develop, if they may well have that outlook already, that's fantastic. To have that expectation of a more multicultural environment that they're going to be studying in is also a huge positive as well.
Thank you. I think that was quite an in-depth explanation into all this that we're facing at the moment as parents and as students. The number of applicants per year from Turkey for high schools in the UK is quite on the rise, especially since COVID, when we felt that the UK has been able to continue and compete because the schools in the UK have provided the setting, the environment, especially where the students were able to board, to keep going without interruption. A lot of parents, a lot of the students in Turkey have realized that this is the way forward, really, to make sure that they also can manage the gap that's left in their education career because of the pandemic. Now, when you said that the parents can support their children with their academic English because they come with good general English levels, would you suggest a few ways? What should they be doing? I always say that my parents, if they can't speak English, this is where one of the issues starts. So the parents should also make sure that they're improving their English at the same time, to keep in touch, at least with the school, to make sure that the communication is there at first hand. But what kind of methods would you suggest that the parents can help their children improve their academic English?
I think I love that, that what you've just talked about there is wonderful, and that I would absolutely support that. And I think it's a wonderful, quite apart from the benefit that it gives the child, it's brilliant for parents. It's great for us as parents. We've all got teenage kids. How often do they want to talk to us? Not very often when they're 14 or 15. Yeah. And it's a mechanism for getting them to talk to you. And I kind of illustrate this. Both one of my girls is very interested in politics, the other one in ancient history. And I don't know a lot about either, but I would talk to them about those 2 things as a way of developing their knowledge. And they would say, "Oh, Daddy, you don't know this and you don't know that." And I'd say, "Well, you go our way and find out about it, and you teach me about it." So you can take what you said there, Fulia, and develop it as the students start giving you as parents lessons. They love it. Children love telling parents what to do. They love,
Isn't this, yeah? Oh, they love telling us what to do. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Isn't this what we refer to as flipped learning? So
Spot on.
the whole learning methodology is upside down. And when a kid learns faster, especially when they're in this system, it's obviously speedier and more exciting. Then yes, it is a great opportunity for us to learn from them too. And I quite like that idea. Thank you. Right, let's move on to our next question. Now, obviously, when the parents come to us as consultants, the first thing we tell them, right, okay, there are options, but there are also entrance systems to the schools. Some have their own tests, some have interviews, some have written, some have reasoning, some have maths, some have English, some have a subject of your choice. Let's talk about these entrance tests a little bit, Mark. What's widely used and what do you recommend? And how should the children prepare for these? And what does the UK expect from an international student? If the child has moved to the UK, let's say 2 years ago, and they've come into top juniors, and they're now making their way into GCSEs and A-levels and so on with their family, everything's like a new discovery for them. And also those kids who are coming directly into the boarding schools, the same thing applies. They're coming into a brand new system and they're coming through an entrance test. So in order to succeed, I guess, in order to achieve or just be accepted at the place that they aim to go, what are your recommendations?
I think first of all, I would flip that to a certain extent. And I
Sure.
expect to everybody as parents, look at the school first, if that makes sense. So before you even apply and think about the test that your son or daughter has to sit, make sure it's the right kind of school for them, which I think we are going to talk about a little bit later. That's absolutely critical. Now, in terms of the tests, if your sons and daughters, if they have gone to boarding school or day school in the UK, and they started GCSEs in the UK, then their entry into the sixth form for A level or for IB is all going to be about their GCSE results. So they won't, or very rarely, will they be expected to sit an additional admissions test for the sixth form. Everything will rest on those GCSE results. So therefore, if we flip back your sons and daughters 13 looking to come into an independent school in the UK, it's what kind of entrance tests might they have to sit at that point. Now, some schools do a test called Common Entrance. You can take that at 11, you can take it at 12, you can take it at 13. My daughters both had to do Common Entrance for their school. It is tough. It's a very, very tough test. It crosses a range of different subjects. You can get quite good insight into that test. Just Google Common Entrance test, and you'll get quite a lot of good information up from the relevant. In terms of preparation, I think it's about, with the academic content of tests like that, map the outline of what the tests will test your children on, studied at school. Identify those gaps, and then it's about obviously gaining tuition for the kids, for the students, to fill those gaps, so that when they sit the Common Entrance test, the gaps are filled. Now, and this is why I said I would mention my girls quite a lot, because there is the connectivity with you guys as parents is huge. So this is what we did. We found out what Common Entrance exams would involve. I mapped it out, good old-fashioned pen and paper, not a document. And I mapped it out with what they've been studying at the school, at their primary school. They went to a state primary school. I found the gaps, went to a tutor and said, please fill the gaps. And he filled the gaps, and they both passed Common Entrance. Now, other schools will use something like Cat4. Other schools might use something called the password test, which is an online English test. So number one is find out exactly what tests the schools require. Okay, that's the obvious thing to say, but crucial. And then map across any sort of gaps in knowledge. this might also be they're looking at skills as much as knowledge as well. So you need to identify that. Many schools, my school, so what do we look for? So to come in and study A-levels or BTEC business, we're looking at a maths test and we're looking at an English test. Now, the maths test, it depends on your A-levels. So if they want to study maths, physics, chemistry, biology, we're looking at a maths test. Now, the level of that is at an IGCSE level. So, as I'm sure you know, an international GCSE qualification taken across the world and in the UK for that. So you can easily access an IGCSE maths paper. You can see the kind of level of questions and once again map across to the knowledge that your son or daughter has at the moment. English, we use password at the moment. We're thinking about changing that to a different test. It tests reading, listening, writing skills. So in terms of preparing for that, you don't need to prepare for the specific English test. It's, as we were saying earlier on, just prepare for broad academic. Of some schools, it is solely about the test. So they won't even interview your son or your daughter. If you don't get the score right, they're a little bit different. We treat every child as an individual. So even if the test scores for English and maths are not particularly good, we would still want to talk to that young person because there are always alternatives. There's always a way forward for a young person to advance their education.
So don't be disheartened if the school has very high stakes placed on their tests. If the schools are selective and you're not really managing those, there are always other options. I always encourage my students to try and look at as many different school entrance tests as possible so they can prepare themselves. And also, as you said to begin with, we flipped the slides, to look at the school first. And if the school suits what you're expecting and what you're expecting to achieve from your education, then yes, you would be able to go for those entrance tests. But tell me a bit about the selectiveness and widely selection or non-selection. Parents hear this often. What does this mean for the parent?
I think it's hugely misleading. I think it's the fault of the UK. It's England specifically. It's not Scotland's fault. It's just England's fault. You know, we just use this phrase non-selective. Now, what parents quite rightly read that as is anybody can do anything, which is not the case. So, for example, Oxford Sixth Form College, my school, we are non-selective, but we have a minimum standard that students must achieve. So every school that's offering A-level or IB, all of them are selective. The difference is the level that they are looking for. So some, as you said, some schools at GCSE, the students have got to be getting, you know, eights at GCSE. On their English test, if we use an IELTS equivalence, they will want IELTS 7.5, 7. Now, that's the kind of level, as we all know, that Oxford, Cambridge, LSE and UCL are looking for as universities. But the schools will look for that from 14, 15, 16-year-olds. So non-selective is a misnomer, okay? It's not accurate. There is a minimum level. The other misapprehension that parents can have is it is only by going to a selective school that I will be successful. Wrong. Non-selective schools can work. The essential thing that makes them work is class size. I've taught in non-selective schools for my entire career. I A-level classes of 25. If you are non-selective and you have A-level classes of 25, 2015, it does not work.
No.
Have A-level classes of 6, 7, 8, 9, it works.
It works.
And I say that as a teacher. You know, I've taught classes of 8 or 9. I've had kids of very high ability, kids of a middle ability. You can teach all of them. You're teaching 15 to 20 to 25 students. You can't. As a teacher, you teach to the middle. So the high-flying ones miss out, and the kids who are of slightly lower ability are struggling. So non-selective schools work, but class size is crucial.
Class size matters.
Yes.
I always try and explain this in a way that we try to explain what value adding means, because highly selective schools, or schools who expect high marks at the point of entrance, will obviously produce high results because that's the product they're recruiting. So it just makes their jobs easier. The student is already halfway there. They've got the mindset, they've got the study skills, they've got the motivation, and they've got the hardworking habits. Whereas, you know, sometimes not every child is of the same quality and is of the same background. Some children have a different learning style. Some children have different needs in their school environment. And that's where I think schools where the student is personified, where the student is known by first name and known by family and known by all their teachers. And as you said, small class sizes, and that there is a family environment, and that every child is supported and protected and guided towards their own individual goals rather than the school's achievement lists, is where the secret of success also lies. I totally support schools who are not selective. I believe the difference is huge, because those schools can add quite a value that the selective ones decidedly won't, I should say. But I don't want to talk about this any further before I say something terrible that the wife comes to me about. But you know, as a final note, yes, non-selective schools work far better for most, especially international students, and which I think we will come to in a bit.
Yeah,
So
your philosophy, I completely agree with that. I think you're right. You're absolutely right. And I have also had to pick up the pieces with young people who've been to very, very selective schools, and that have not looked at tunes, and the kids can't cope. The kids can't cope.
yeah, there is a school for every child, but not every school is for every child. This is my motto in life. It's my motto in my career. I make sure that, you know, the school matches the child's needs and the child is happy in that environment. But not every school that they hear of, especially parents among themselves and the references that they receive, is going to be the best suited for their child. Which brings us to the topic, which should have been our first. Let's flip the slide back again, is how to choose a high school. So as we said in the beginning, that look at the school first. Yes, we've looked at the school, but what are the criterias? So can we name a few, make lists for our parents, for example? You said the setting, should it be in a city, in a rural, in an urban setting? Should it be in vast land with loads of facilities, or should it be in a smaller classroom in the heart of the city? So and what else? I mean, should the school be offering 5 different European languages? Should the school be offering all the art and design A-level subjects? Should the school be able to offer that A-level, even if that child is the only one demanding that subject? So how to choose a high school, Mark?
Okay. I think it's as we were saying at the beginning, you know, it's the first point is priorities. You know, what do you as parents, what do you as parents want to achieve, and what does your son or daughter want to achieve? That's your starting point. And once you've got those objectives, if you like, it is then right. Well, how do we get there? So as we've already said, it's about the location of the school. Is it urban? Is it rural? Is it big? Is it small? It's then about the culture of the school. Is this a school that is used to supporting and welcoming international students? Is this a school that already has, for example, students from Turkey? Talk to those students. Talk to the students who are already there. Yeah, at school, we do this all the time. We talk to the kids from my minority kids are British, 25%. I've then got kids from 35 different countries all over the world. And when we have students and parents applying, we say, do you want to talk to Esther from Brazil? You're from Brazil, do you want to talk to Esther? So that the parents and the students get an inside view. We're not on the call. We just set up the call and the students talk and the parents talk to the existing student. So it's about in terms of culture, welcoming, outlook, and as in just now, class size. You know, you might your sons and daughters might thrive in classes of 15, 20, 25. That might be fine for them. If they're not, that's your number one question. Schools always talk about average class size. Ask them to tell you their maximum class size. Yeah. You can have one student in A-level Spanish, 23 in maths, and they'll say our average class size is 12. Well, they haven't told you there's 23 in maths. Yeah, I'm an old guy. I've been doing this for a long time.
I think that's a very smart way to find out. That's
absolutely.
Yes, that it's not the average class, is it? It's okay. Everybody, almost a majority of students take maths and English. So aside from maths and English, in the sub-popular subjects, the class average tells you all. That's very smart. Thank you. That's a good tip for me as well.
Yeah, and for us, it's it's a max in A-level. It's a maximum of 8 that we grade to 8. That's our maximum class size. I think the next sort of element of what choosing is the curriculum. So some students, IB, and I know IB is very well known in Turkey. I think there's 50, 60 schools in Turkey teach IB.
That's right. Yes.
It's a great qualification. But as you all know, it's very broad. A-levels are deep. So it's about which suits your child best, that breadth of learning or narrow but deep learning. That then connects in with the priorities point. So if you have, say your son or your daughter wants to be a doctor, so biology, chemistry and maths at A-level, or biology, chemistry and physics, or biology, chemistry and psychology is absolutely fine. Look at the A-level specifications, look at the detail. If your sons or your daughters, they are enthused by those subjects, then A-level is the right way to go. If they're not so sure, then the breadth of IB can be a better way to go. So a couple more points to make, but in summary so far, urban or rural, big or small, what's the curriculum, IB, BTEC, A-level, what's the culture? Is it welcoming of international students? What's the kind of spread? Are there any British students? An increasing number of independent schools in the UK. UK students are a tiny, tiny percentage. They're 95, not 100, but some are actually 100% international students. And that can be a good thing. But if your sons and daughters say, well, I want to go to a school where there's some British students, it is about the A-levels, it is about the IB, it is about the BTEC, but I want to get to know some British students as well. So it's worth asking that question about the number of British. It's also the second bullet point here is ask the schools that. How are you going to help my son or daughter who is from Turkey, who is from Brazil, who is from Germany, who is from Vietnam? How are you going to help them? It's a good question, because it is different. Supporting an international boarding student is different from supporting a day British student. They have very different needs, very, very different needs.
Absolutely.
So ask that question of them. I think for me as a parent, if I'd sent my daughters to Turkey for school, or China, or America, or Canada, wherever, my big thing would be, how easily can I communicate with you? That would be number one thing. How do I communicate with you? Have I got to talk to all of my daughter's teachers, the year, the deputy head, and so on? Now, we keep it really simple. Our students have a senior tutor. The senior tutor does no teaching. That senior tutor's job is to be the parent's point of contact. So you simply contact the senior tutor. We've got 3. Let's use Rob as an example. Hi, Rob. How's she doing in the boarding house? How's she doing with her A-levels? It's Rob's job to talk to the teachers, talk to the boarding house, and feed that back to you. So we call it a one-stop hub. And they're good people, and they're more importantly, they're very crucial roles in providing parents with reassurance when their children are hundreds, if not thousands, of miles away. So,
well, I think your children are very lucky in your school for you to make sure that there is such a position available for the parents to be in direct contact. The senior tutor position is not available in many of the schools that I know. Parents usually often try and contact a housemaster for their well-being and try and contact the tutor for their academic well-being. So to have, as you said, one-stop hub is great, that this person knows about everything of the student. So that is just a very, I think, an important position in supporting your international students.
yeah, and it's a role that I did that role myself many years ago. And then when I moved into independent schools and colleges, I introduced it everywhere I went. It's as a school, you can have an Olympic swimming pool, or you can spend money on very brilliant people who do know teaching, so that you can deliver support for kids. It's a choice. It's a choice.
Absolutely. Now, at this point, I'm going to invite our parents, if any of them have any questions. Let me just announce this in Turkish in case. Bu noktada sorusu olan velilerimiz dilerlerse el işaretine tıklayabilirler, dilerlerse chat kutusuna yazabilirler. Konuştuğumuz konularla ilgili olabilir, kendi çocuğunuza özel bir konu olabilir, tercihlerinizle ilgili olabilir. Uzmanı yanımızdayken sorularınızı yazmanızı veya sormanızı isteriz. While waiting for any parent questions, can I ask you, now, I've done BTEC. I've studied in the UK myself, and I've done BTEC because my teachers thought that was the best thing for me, because I was this very outgoing, very project-based learner, and everything, all the clubs and societies in the schools, I was there, and they thought, okay, you do the business and finance in BTEC and you'll be done. And it was one of the happiest choices. My teachers directed me the right way. Now, a lot of parents assume that A-level is the only choice in the UK. A lot of parents assume that A-level is the only way forward. Even though I, as a teacher myself, see the advantages of A-level system over BTECs, over IBs, and I am a firm believer in A-levels, by the way. How can the parents sense, let's say I'm not in their life, there's no consultant, how can the parents sense what program is good for their kids?
Okay, I think for choosing, I agree with you on BTEC. I think it's a brilliant course. So we offer BTEC business. So if I focus on my answer on BTEC business, so yeah. If you have a son or a daughter who they're not academic, they don't like exams, yeah, lots of students are like that. That's yeah. Kids are different. We're all different, yeah. But they love business. Maybe you, mum or dad, you have a business of your own, and they admire you. I mean, our BTEC kids, all of them, mum and or dad, are successful business people. And these kids have grown up with an admiration of their parents and what their parents have achieved. And they love business. They love marketing. They love operations. They love human resource management, for example. So it's really about, if you're not academic, you love business, you want to study business at university. And by the way, BTEC students, our BTEC students, go to Bristol, they go to Manchester, they go to Leeds, they go to Newcastle, they get to Russell Group universities. So the perception that if you BTEC you can't get to a good university is wrong,
Absolutely.
and wrong.
Yes.
The mode of assessment is completely different. So the BTEC now, 12% is a formal exam, like an A-level. 38% of the assessment is what's called controlled assessment. So the students, they're given a case study, a business case study. They take it away, they do research, they make notes. They can take those notes into the exam room where they're given about the case study, and they can use their notes.
Sure.
The final 50% is, as Fulia said, it's portfolio, it's coursework. So it's ideal for students who are not academic, love business, hate exams. It's perfect for them. It's a great qualification.
Yeah, I loved it. I love doing it myself. Now we have a couple of questions. First, Özlem Hanım, do you want to voice your own question, please?
Sure, thank you, and thanks
Hello.
for all the information. I have a question for Mark.
Yes.
So my daughter is 10th grade this year, and she's taking some pre-AP classes, and she'll be in AP next year. And due to my job, we may be relocating to the UK, and therefore we're kind of looking at transferring her possibly for next year, the 11th grade. So when I think about this, I just started learning more about the process, and this is definitely helpful. So thanks again. But I'm hearing that to transfer at 11th grade, there may be some exams, assessment exams or such this year, even starting in November. So if there's any information about that, I would love to hear. And when I think about our long-term plans, if she goes to school in the UK, yes, UK universities may be an option, but she always had the States in mind. So based on that, I would love some advice and guidance from you.
Sure.
Great. So just to clarify, Özlem, your child is in year 11 in Turkey, right?
No, she's in 10th grade this year.
Oh, she's in 10th grade, which is year 11 in the UK, Mark. So she's the GCSE year this year. So she'll be applying for September 2024, making her the perfect A-level starter. She's gonna be joining the UK at a perfect starting point. That's one thing. So
well, that's good to hear. That's good news.
Yes. So the answer is with Mark.
How old is she now, as at today? Is she 16 or 15?
Well, she was born in December, so therefore she's going to be 15 in December.
15 in December. Okay. Now, so 15 in December. So obviously 16 in December 24. Now,
correct.
She would, if she were a UK student, she would be in first year of GCSE now, and start second year of GCSE in September. But she's doing APs. She's doing the advanced placement tests.
Well, they have pre-AP classes in 10th grade in her school, and her AP classes, full AP classes, starts next year.
Start next year, yeah. By the way, AP is regarded as the same as A-level by UK universities. So AP
that's what I've heard.
AP is really good. I mean, I think given that she's 15 this December, if you come to the UK if she starts in the UK for September 24,
she will still be 15.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
now, she could start A-level. Now, some caveats around that. Okay, under UK law, she would still be of compulsory school age. Now, because she's of compulsory school age, there is a requirement on schools to deliver, whether they're independent schools or state schools, what's called, quotes, a broad and balanced curriculum. So a school might say to her, yes, you can start A-levels. Now, does she love sciences or arts, or what are her favourite subjects?
Sciences, yeah.
Okay, so let's say she does bio, phys, biochem, and physics as A-levels, yeah. Now,
she's more biology, physics, and psychology, actually, interestingly.
Okay. All right, brilliant.
Nice.
We'll do another chat about university degree courses, because she might need to adjust that a little bit, depending on what she wants to do. If she wants to do a psychology degree, she'll need maths in there rather than physics, bizarrely, but there we are.
Right, right.
The broad and balanced curriculum, they might let her pick up, biology, chemic, the three subjects that you mentioned, but she'd have to add in some art, possibly a bit of English, even though she's an English native speaker. Now, your safe bet would be if she did a one-year GCSE course. She would be amply ready for that, given that she's doing pre-AP and is going into AP. Do a one-year GCSE course, September 24 to July 25. She's then 16 when she goes into A-levels in September 25. And in terms of her age, she's at exactly the same point as the UK students.
Okay.
My inclination would be to say, go for somewhere that might give her a start with those A levels, but be aware of broad and balanced curriculum needs. Safe kind of option, go for 1 year GCSE. We had a British girl, Sophia, she was in Australia, and similar situation to you. She ummed and ahed about starting A levels. I said, do 1 year GCSEs. She knocked out 9, 9, 9, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 in 1 year.
Well done.
Yeah.
Is in the
Well done.
second year of her A levels, is an Oxbridge candidate. Because
Nice.
she took a more conservative route. She didn't rush it. So that would be my advice. The mainstream independent schools might push you back and say, we don't do 1 year GCSE. She has to go back a year. If they do that, say, I want A levels, even though she's 15, you need to add stuff around it. We do offer a 1 year GCSE. A few places do.
Yeah,
But
I think 1 year GCSE is a good ground for A levels to
Absolutely.
take off. And it's also the
Yeah.
transition year, and it helps the student. So rather than doing the years 11 and 12, put back a year and then give her the grounds, transit to the system, and that's a perfect recipe, really.
Thanks, Sylvia.
Sure, sounds like it.
Yeah,
That's very helpful to start our plan. Actually, this meeting comes in at a very good time for us. Just one little question in terms of acceptance to schools. She's obviously a Turkish citizen, but she's also an American citizen. Does that make any difference? Any plus, minus,
You will
nothing?
still, Özlem Hanım, you will still need a study visa, study permit, regardless who you are.
Sure.
So it doesn't give you any pluses or minuses as such.
She's
But
still an
the English,
international
the
student.
spoken, the spoken English is there, and she's still an international student as far as the UK laws are concerned. But her English is quite a big plus. But we will give you further information on Oxford International Sixth Form after
Sounds
this
good.
meeting. Yeah, and perhaps
Okay. All right.
another
Thank
chance
you.
to speak to the school. No problem. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Very,
Appreciate
very
it.
important.
Anyway.
Now, another question from Mr. Gurhan. He wrote in the chat box, it is easier to submit an IELTS score for English as Turkish students don't have GCSE scores. Because when they come to A levels, the UK will expect some sort of a language level, both for the visa, for child student and student visa, and also for the school, and also for the university applications. Having come into the sixth form level, they'll need that as proof. So Mr. Gurhan's question is, what can be an alternative to IELTS?
So the range, you've got TOEFL, you've got Pearson, PTE. So there are a range of other alternatives. I think if your son or daughter can go for the IELTS, I think it's the best thing to do. It's the IELTS academic in particular. It's, for me as a head teacher, it's a qualification. I trust it completely.
Yes, I think that Mr. Gurhan wants to add to his question. Mr. Gurhan, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. I would like to clarify my question, actually. It's not related with IELTS. My boy is 15 years old as of today, and he has an IELTS.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So he has an IELTS score of 6.5.
Wow.
We are planning to relocate to UK next year, so the timing will be September 2024. But he is studying an IB school in Turkey, grade 9 today. I mean this year. He had a prep class last year. That's why he is 9th grade. So because of his age, next year most probably he's going to apply for the sixth form. But we cannot submit any GCSE scores from the school from other classes. So what can we do, actually? That's the question, not the English one.
Okay, but you are in an international school in Turkey, right, Mr. Gurhan?
No, it's Acıbadem.
Okay,
But,
so it's not. It's a national private school system.
Yes.
Okay, so you are in the Ministry of Education curriculum.
Yes.
And but he has good English and a very nice IELTS score at hand. So without GCSE, if you're coming in to do university, obviously IELTS is the score that they need. But to come into A-level without GCSEs, what would you suggest, Mark?
I think, first of all, I'd quickly sort of row back a little bit, because
Yeah,
if he's 15 today, like the person that we spoke with previously, he will be regarded as compulsory school age under the
yes.
UK system next year. So, as per previous answer, he could step into A levels, but there would be that need for a wraparound. 1 year GCSE might be a better option for him. Given his fantastic English level, he wouldn't have to repeat IELTS in that 1 year GCSE course. He could take IGCSE English first language. 6.5, he's ready for that. To answer your question directly, sir, so use us as an example. We have lots of students who they're not taking GCSEs, or their parents are relocating, like you're potentially going to do. So they haven't finished any in-country qualifications. That's not a problem. What we ask for is a transcript from the current school. So most recent reports, we like a personal statement from the student themselves. We like a reference from the school. And that, combined with the admissions interview, we can make an assessment on that student as to whether or not they're capable of moving on to A-level. Just to reinforce that, at 15, that's 16.5. Is it academic IELTS or general IELTS?
It's academic IELTS.
Wow.
That's very good.
Fantastic.
That's very good.
Fantastic.
Mr. Gurhan, I just want to underline the fact that GCSEs are regarded as crucial by some UK universities, including from those international students. So if your child is coming in at 15, I would strongly advise to do GCSEs. Because, for example, just today I was looking at the entry requirements for Imperial College for engineering. He's my candidate and we'll be applying together next year, and we're preparing from now for his applications next year as his consultant. And we see that Imperial is asking for English and Maths GCSEs at minimum 5, that is a C. So if you're aiming for high-level universities, top Russell Group universities, especially the G5, what we call the G5, the grade 5, and Imperial is one of them, then I would strongly recommend that he comes in to do the GCSEs. I wouldn't worry so much about losing a year or being put back a year, because it is a firm ground for their A-levels, for their transition to the UK system. And it also guarantees applications to, as I said, the top universities. GCSEs, you will find, especially English, are a very, very different content to the English that we teach in Turkey. In Turkey, the general English curriculum is based more on learning general English to be able to communicate. So it's based on the communicative approach. All the coursework, the textbooks are by either Oxford or Cambridge or Pearson, and they all take the communicative approach into the center. So they're not academic. Whereas GCSE provides that English academic level, what I think is more crucial as I said, as like a launch pad for the A-level if they're taking English, or even if they're taking anything else. I find that the language barrier is the most crucial thing that a student has to deal with before they can prove their success at school. They may come in with 100%, 95% on their transcripts from their prior schools, but if the language barrier is there, it doesn't mean much for their future. But I think, Mr. Gurhan, your child is a hardworking kid, right?
Not actually, but his score is good.
No, well, he's smart then, and you're lucky.
Maybe, hopefully. So
Okay,
can I ask a further question? Sorry to
shortly, yes, because we've got one more question.
Yeah, now in the period, I mean, we are applying some schools in UK, so independent and the state schools.
Mm-hmm.
If they accept us, I mean, we are trying to follow all the procedures in the admission process. Should we prefer to take an GCSE course instead of going to a sixth form school? Is it what you recommend?
It depends on him. So he's 15 today. If he's a 15-year-old who's quite a mature, level-headed kind of chap, then I think a sixth form college can work for him. I think if he's 15, but he's really 13, and as a dad myself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Then a school is the right environment. You know, it's his character and his personality.
Okay.
You know, our 1 year GCSE course, we've got 15-year-olds on there, but they're 15, really 16 in terms of how they are here. And we have 16-year-olds, and it works. But you know, I mentioned my girls earlier on. Phoebe, my younger one, Phoebe, school, 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 school. Ellie, my eldest, sixth form college, sixth form college, sixth form college, because they're very different people. So you know him, sir. I don't.
Okay.
Yes.
If he's a
I
mature
think
guy, sixth form college will work. Yeah.
can we just say why though, Mark? Why should a mature student be happier in a sixth form? Is it the environment, the level of academic rigor? What is it?
I think it's the environment. I think for Ellie's downstairs, I could go and get her and she could talk to you all now. So
We'll
I'm
get
at
Ellie
home.
to talk to
I'm
Mr.
at
Graham.
home, so that's why she's here. She won't mind me saying this, I don't think. She was at a very selective independent school. And she said to me, Daddy, I don't want to stay. She said, I've been very, very happy here, but I'm a young adult, not a child. And that captures it completely. There are many, many young people who've outgrown school, the environment that school is, and they need to go to somewhere where they're treated like a young adult. It doesn't mean they get complete freedom. Lots of parents think sixth form college equals total freedom. It doesn't. It's in how we interact with them. First names, treat them like young adults. It's like a place of work, not a school. So you're right, Fully. It's about environment, and it's the right kind of environment for lots of young people. It's not for some. It's not for some, but for many,
Yes,
it is.
Yeah, but that's a great way of putting it. That some children outgrow school environment. Yeah. That's very good. Right, last
Fully
question
understood.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gurhan. Mehmet Efe Bağcı, he's 14. I think he's the youngest of our audiences. Now, Mehmet Efe's question is, hello, I am Efe and I am 14 years old. I can speak English at C1 level. Wonderful. These kids, they speak English just like that. It used to be so difficult for us. He says he has some relatives in London. The question is, can I study high school there without my parents being in London?
You, at the age of 14, young man, you will need a guardian. Okay, so you must have a guardian. If you have family in the UK, so that can be aunt, uncle, and so on, they can be a guardian. But because of your age, they are legally appointed as your guardian. So there's a legal process that has to be gone through because you're under 16. Now, it's not onerous. It's nothing to worry about. And if you've got family in London, that's the way to go. If you haven't got family, you need to get a really good guardian. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I suspect, I don't know, you're the kind of young man we were just talking about. You're 14, but you're 15, 16. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
I would suspect, but you're still 14. Yeah. So that requirement to have the guardian is there because you need someone. What a guardian will do is not just keep you safe in the wider context, but they represent you at school. They go to parents' evenings. If you've got a disagreement with a teacher, their job is to help you sort that disagreement out. So it's very important that you have that support if you come to the UK without family.
I just want to add here, because I, as a consultant, act as a guardian to many of my students in the UK. Yeah. The law says every student coming in on an international visa, like Mehmet Efe would, needs a UK-based guardian who will look after them and, as you said, represent them in all cases. So Mehmet Efe, depending on how close this relation is, yes, you can come as a day student, because it's only if it's mum's sister or dad's sister or brother, it's only if they're directly related to you that the UK visa will allow you to come in as a day student. Otherwise, you would need to be a boarding school student, and you can go at the weekends to your relatives and stay with them over the weekends and on school holidays, and that is also possible. And again, they will act as your guardian, but it's just that being a day student is just a little bit different to being a boarding school student legally. But you know, as guardianship services go, we do have a lot of students who come in on their own, and then families either want to relocate or families leave, go to other jobs, other countries, and then the children stay. It is all possible. The UK is very flexible, but very protective over their juniors. Safeguarding is an issue that is taken really seriously. And I do explain this to all my parents and clients and students. Sometimes it goes against our culture, some of the rules and disciplinary procedures, but it is nevertheless there for their protection. So guardianship is important. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm going to have to put a stop to this. I did say half an hour, but we are well into an hour here. Thank you so much, Mark, for your time.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Okay, Özlem Işer has just put her hand up. A very quick question, please, Miss Özlem.
Okay, just quickly. Thank you very much. This was very useful seminar, by the way. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
My question is, we have contract job in Istanbul, and me, my husband, and my son, we are both British citizens. My son born in London. When he was 2 years old, we moved to Turkey for a contracted job. Now it's ending this year. So in July, we will be moving back. And my son, 13 years old, he's in 8th grade now in one of the private school in Turkey. So the secondary school is going to finish this year. What is your advice? Where to start? Shall I search for high schools? I don't know actually where to start. So
okay, so if the son is in year 9 in Turkey, it is year 10 in the UK, Mark.
Sorry. So
how old is your son? The date of birth, Özlem?
14. 2010.
He's 14, born in 2010.
He would be
13.
from a curriculum.
He would be 14 this year, yes.
From a curriculum point of view, Özlem, he's nice and straightforward. So start 2-year GCSE in September 24. So he would be, he would fit right in with that, with the age cycle of the British kids. So they would be doing the same thing. So it's finding a really good school. Everything we've talked about this evening. And obviously use fully as expertise and guidance, and find a school that does 2-year GCSE.
Again, a perfect starting point, beginning of GCSE. So GCSEs are 2-year programs, and so are A-levels, and so are BTECs, and so are APs and IBs. So it's always advisable that the child comes in at the beginning of these 2-year periods rather than in the middle, because it really doesn't make sense for the child's future. It's best to then do the fast-track GCSE to move forward if they're coming in at the end of year 10. But the beginning of GCSE is a perfect starting point. So yes, do look for schools that offer both GCSEs and A-levels if you can. Otherwise, you can move to a better sixth form if you have ambitions about other schools. But GCSEs where you're going for GCSEs, I would look for a school that provides international student support, like we've been discussing, that provides small class sizes, and that provides EAL, English as an additional language support. This is very important for kids coming from Turkey. And he may not need it all his education life, but to begin with, that's I think, crucial. Okay. Right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. You know all our contacts. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking to one of my doctor graduates, Dr. Eva Atabato. She's a junior doctor for NHS at St. Guy's Hospital in London. She's going to tell you all about her journey, how she prepared for A-levels, how she went through grammar school, how she went through studying medicine. So all your questions will be answered tomorrow night, and that will mark the end of our series for this term. I'm very grateful for your time and effort, Mark. Have a very good night.
And thank you, everybody, who listened and took part in the questions. And best of luck to all of you and to your children in their futures. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.